So a few days ago, I went to an estate. I was actually invited, and they were selling a bunch of loose silver and turquoise, so I bought up a bunch of turquoise. Some nice stuff like this, some other things like this. While I was there, I did a little bit of spot testing to test for dyes in order to weed out things that might have been dyed halide or mangasite and whatnot, but mostly I bought it blind. Now here I'm back at the shop, so I'm going to do some more testing, and I'm going to show you how you can easily test your turquoise at home and be sure that it is not dyed or plastic or resin filled. Now, before I go too far, I will say that a lot of turquoise is stabilized, especially on the back. You can see here this really nice piece of spiderweb turquoise is beautiful on the front, and on the back is a backing. This is pretty normal for a lot of turquoise, especially stuff coming out of the United States in the era of the 70s and 80s. So that part of the stone I'm not going to test because I know it's probably made out of vinyl or some sort of composite. But what I want to see is the stone itself mostly plastic or is it mostly turquoise? So we're going to do that now. Alright, I've got everything laid out here. I have these already divided up into different parcels, and I'll be selling them soon. But what I want to do first is test them and make sure that what I'm selling, well, I want to represent it accurately. So first thing I'm going to test for is the dye, and that's the easiest thing to do. All you need is some acetone and some Q-tips. So this right here is acetone. If you don't have acetone, you can also use fingernail polish remover. It's pretty much the same thing. Paint thinner will also oftentimes be mostly acetone. You can use paint gun, cleaning solution. Anything with a high concentration of acetone is going to work really well. So the process is really simple. You're going to take a stone, dip the Q-tip in the acetone, simply scrub it across the surface like so. Just a few seconds, and then look at the Q-tip. You know, I got a little bit of dirt off of the turquoise there. That's normal, especially for older stuff. But there's no change in color on the stone, and there's no blue or green dye on the Q-tip. And that's it. The reason why we do this is good 90% of the costume jewelry on the market these days has turquoise-like stones in it. And what they're actually doing is they're taking howlite, which has a gray veining running through it, but the stone itself is generally white. And they'll inject it with dyes. And it will end up looking at the casual glance just like turquoise, but at a fraction of the cost. Typically the dyes only run surface deep, so if you were to recut or repolish a stone, it would turn white. We don't want that. They can also fade over time or discolor. And most of the time when people are buying turquoise, they really want real turquoise. They don't want to have be spoofed into buying something that isn't what it is. Again, you see some dirt coming off there. I will clean up the stone here. But no dyes. Every now and then I pull out a new Q-tip. So I'm going to go through and I'm going to test every single stone. So I don't know if these all came from the same place, the same line. Things can change hands over time. But you don't have to watch this whole thing. I'll skip ahead here in a moment and we're going to show you how to test for resin or plastics. And the reason why that's important is recently I actually bought some turquoise cabs. They were sold to me as natural cabochons, and I put them in a ring, and during polishing the bezel got a little bit warm, and even just that little bit of heat on the bezel actually melted the resin. It just became a pile of goop right there in the ring. And so I ended up having to scrape it all out, return those stones, and buy all new stones, which was a huge hassle. But at least I figured that out before I sent the ring off. And I just keep going like this until you've tested each one. Test one of these big ones here just for fun. Okay, this is the resin test, and the simplest thing you need at home is simply a sewing needle or paper clip and a lighter. I'm going to be just using my torch. So the concept here is I'm going to heat up this soldering pick. I don't need it super hot. I definitely need it to be nice and steamy here. Hot enough to melt plastic, because that's essentially what I'm going to be doing here. Trying to melt plastic. So after I get that warmed up, I'll turn off my torch. Now I'll pull a stone in here. I'll simply touch the pick to the stone somewhere discreetly. Now, as I'm doing this, I'm not feeling any resistance. The pick is not digging into the stone. There's no smoke, there's no fumes, there's no odor. If this were plastic, obviously what you would get is it would gouge right into the stone and leave a big mark. But this being really nice turquoise, nothing is happening at all. It also tells me that these stones haven't been coated with any kind of lacquer, so it's actually polished. Lazy man's polish would be to spray them with some sort of glossy coating. Anyways, I would carry on with that with all of the stones until I've tested every single one. And once I've done that, then I know that what I'm selling is natural turquoise. It's not dyed. This is, I could even call this unstabilized. And aside from the backing here, these are really nice stones. So I'll be putting these up for sale here soon. I expect them to go pretty quick. Okay, finally some excitement here. Now, when I saw this parcel here, I thought, man, those are really pretty little tumbles. First thing that I didn't like about them, though, is the uniformity of the color and how a lot of them had these little kind of lighter colored areas on them that didn't quite look right. Something about these just looked off. The other thing that threw me off is that even though I was at an estate sale buying these from a long time ago, the bag had a price tag on it, $1.50. Now, to me, if this was real turquoise, it should be worth more than $1.50, but I don't know. Maybe that's what it went for back in the 70s. So, let's see what happens here. I'll take a piece. Look at that. It's faint, but you can start to see there's definitely blue coming off on there. Yeah, definitely has some blue tinge to it. We'll do another one. Let's see here, I'll pick out a big one. There you go. Definitely can see the blue there. You can see some black as well, which, you know, could be dirt. But the blue is very obvious, which means that this is dyed. Probably dyed howlite. Howlite oftentimes will come kind of a chunky botryoidal form. And so they would have broken off a bunch of these pieces here. And I don't know exactly how the dyeing process works, but I do know that it has probably fooled many people many a time. It is actually kind of gratifying to actually find some that is dyed here in this parcel. One, it tells me that my process is working. Two, it tells me that most of the turquoise I bought was high-grade natural, and just this one bag here was not, so not a big loss, and I didn't pay very much for it. The fun thing is that now I'm going to take these and I'm going to grind some of them down just to see how far the dye goes. So let's try that out. Okay, got the genie going. A couple of the nodules here, and we're just going to grind away some of the surface. Don't have to grind away very much. Okay, once we get this to focus here. See, the inside is white. There you go. On that one you can start to see the inside is white too. You can see how far the dye makes it in. It makes it in maybe a good millimeter or so. Let's try going to the more aggressive wheel here. It's been cut off a little bit more. Okay, so here's what the inside of a piece of dyed howlite looks like. You can see it has a whitish core, and the dyes are permeating inwards here. Get the camera to focus. There we go. So there you have it. I hope you've enjoyed watching. Another thought I wanted to point out, and that is about the luster and color of natural turquoise. If you take a look at this stone here, you'll see that it has multiple colors running through it, and that's very normal. The matrix on this stone runs the gamut from brown to black. It even has a little bit of metallic flicks in it, also very normal. And the luster of these stones is called waxy, and it literally feels a bit waxy in your hand, and that's very normal too for turquoise. So keep that in mind when you're out there scouting around for good deals. Okay, so I hope that was helpful to anybody out there who either collects turquoise, buys turquoise, sells turquoise. Part of the goal is to make sure that the stuff that's on the market is being sold honestly. The last little thing you can do is just use a little common sense. If you have a stone that looks like this, and it's only being sold for $5, chances are it's not real. So, take everything with a grain of salt. There's one other thing you can do, and that is to feel the matrix. Now, matrix on turquoise is softer than the turquoise itself. So if you run your finger across it, that you should feel ridges, or you should feel either little dips or changes in the surface of the stone as your finger moves across the different parts of the matrix. So like this area here I can feel is recessed, and the turquoise is ever so slightly higher up because it erodes slower than the matrix. So that's it. I'm going to get back to testing these. Enjoy! Still testing. Still testing. Yep. Things are really dirty. get a lot of dirt on here. That's how you know they're old. Sometimes when they're old, that means they're better. They weren't dying how I magazine nearly as much back then as they are now. Older stuff. Better stock. You don't find turquoise like this anymore. Most of the mines are closed. The only way you get stuff like this is you go and you either find a reputable dealer or buy it at an estate sale, buy a vintage piece of jewelry. I like buying from estates. Usually the folks that are selling it are happy to listen, learn a little bit about what they have. I try to explain the value and offer what I feel like is a fair price. For me, as a jeweler, that usually means I have to offer them less than what it's worth, of course, because I do need to make money on the sale. I'm going to buy these and then turn around and either put them in jewelry myself or sell them to other jewelers. But at least that way it keeps everything in circulation and out of the closet. Gives more people some stones to enjoy. I feel like it's important to make sure you know what you're selling, so I thought I'd make this video. These are definitely dirty and need to be cleaned, but hey, you know what? Cleaning is important. It is important. First, I'll be cleaning one and it'll start getting lighter and I'll realize, no, it's not dye coming off, it's just dirt. Man, there's a lot of dirt on this. Ooh, nice and clean.